Hello, my name is Nancy Hawker. I am honored to be giving this keynote lecture for the 4th Arabic Linguistics Forum Conference on the 1st of July 2020. I'd love to see you face to face, but as things stand with COVID-19, I send you my greetings from London. The title of my talk is Owning the Means of Discursive Production, a Sociolinguistic Analysis of Class in a Palestinian Border Zone. I'll start this lecture, which is after all attended by linguists, with a language test. What is the language of the poster in this photo? Clue: it is an election poster for the Arab-led Joint List political party ahead of the March 2020 parliamentary elections in Israel. The photo was taken in Beit Shemesh, where most residents are ultra-Orthodox Jews. It says, "Your vote against compulsory conscription." I'll return to this test at the end of the lecture. In this lecture, I will try to convince you that the concept of social class is a useful analytical tool in application to the study of Arabic. Why do I want to argue this? Does Arabic sociolinguistics have a problem with class? Let's have a look. One crucial problem with defining class as an independent variable seems to be how it can be defined in Arabic-speaking societies. Often lacking hard economic and social data, researchers must build their own socioeconomic profiles. These are useful, but suffer from a necessary makeshiftness which renders cross-study comparisons difficult. The reference is Jonathan Owen's 2001. Here it would seem that class does exist in reality in Arabic-speaking societies, but researchers don't know how to find it. Instead of using well-established and frequently used, in the Western literature, independent sociolinguistic factors such as social class or ethnicity, I argue that social status is more appropriate and encompassing a factor that can explain sociolinguistic and dialectal differences in the Arab world, inasmuch as it captures issues of hierarchy and thus prestige without presupposing the rigid structure of social class. The reference is Irene Theodoropoulou, 2018. Here it is stated that social class is a rigid structure and it applies elsewhere, but not to the Arab world. The correlation between social class and language variation has not been studied extensively because social class is not easily definable in most Arabic-speaking communities. The discrepancy in these findings may be attributed to the fluid nature of social class in the Arab context, and the difficulty that arises from any attempt to capture this complex social construct. For example, tribal affiliation and family history are two indices of social class that are more highly emphasized in the Arab region than they may be among other societies. The reference for this quote is Abdul Kafi al-Barini, 2016. Here, social class is seen as fluid in nature, and it won't stand still long enough to be measured, unlike kinship. So, are we confused? Shall we throw out class with the bathwater? And yet, we need class, from Casablanca to Manama. Class keeps slipping back in through the back door, but poorly theorized. Here is an example from Casablanca. Fessi dialect has traditionally been perceived as a posh dialect, probably because it is the variety spoken by the Fessi bourgeoisie. The rich urbane past of the city and the cultural practices of its elite must have contributed to the construction of this prestige. The reference is Atika Hashimi, 2007. Here we are talking about class stereotypes in language. And this is an example from Damascus. As a socioeconomic parameter, the life mode concept can be seen as a more appropriate tool to analyze the urban social structure in Damascus than social class. The drawback of the socioeconomic tool, composed of objective indicators of status, was that some speakers had to be pigeonholed according to the composite socioeconomic indicator in categories which did not reflect their social reality. Hanadi Ismail, 2007. Here we see a researcher grappling with the paradoxes in accounting for relative wealth and precarity that they face in the reality that they are studying. And here is a conceptualization that is applied throughout the Arab world, including in application to Bahrain. Badawi's Fusha Ammiya rainbow levels model reflects both the style differences demanded by the subject matter, i.e. register-related, and differences corresponding to categories of social class similar to those employed in Western sociolinguistic research. Clive Holes, 2004. Here there is a claim that there is social hierarchy in the Arab world, and alongside it, a hierarchy of registers. The scholarship does seem to comprise a lot of different ways of applying class to the study of Arabic. So how do I suggest we sort it out? I submit to you that class is useful in 3 ways. 1. It is useful in locating language use in its political context, which includes the economy. 2. It is useful in accounting for power dynamics in establishing hierarchies of speakers. 3. It is useful for reflecting on transformations effected by language workers, such as linguistics scholars. Let me introduce you to part of my fieldwork stomping ground since 2006. This map shows an area of the occupied West Bank to the southwest of Jerusalem. In blue are Jewish Israeli localities. In yellow are Palestinian localities. This is a geography where localities are segregated by nationality, and in which language strongly indexes nationality. I study where those languages, Hebrew and Arabic, come into contact. On the next slide, I will take you to the first place, to Jerusalem, the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, in the top right part of the map. This is Ahmed Tibi. He is a Palestinian member of the Knesset since 1999. He represents the Arab Movement for Change, a Palestinian nationalist party, which is now part of the joint list whose election poster you saw in the second slide. In the clip you will hear, from the 9th of December 2014, he is making a statement about the cost of living, which is supposedly driving people to emigrate from Israel. You will need to know a few things about the context before you watch the clip. Milky is an Israeli custard dessert, which was reported to be more expensive in Israel than in Berlin. Also, you need to know that Arabic was the second official language in Israel until July 2018, when it was demoted to a language with special status.
لما نحن لا رسميين بجلال ملكي كي هم ولادتي ملكي يعني نحن لا نترك الوطن بسبب الملكي لأن الأرض هي ملكي. אתה אמור לדבר בעברית במליאה, זה הכללים. אני לא אמור לדבר בעברית במליאה. אדוני לא מכיר את התקנון? יש שפה רשמית. מכירים את הכללות. אדוני, אומנם עברו רק 20 חודשים מאז שאתה חבר כנסת, אתה לא מכיר את התקנון. אז אתה מוזמן לסיים בבקשה, כי זמנך יסתיים. בסדר, אבל אל תעיר לי הערות שהן בניגוד לתקנון. מותר לי לדבר בערבית, ואני עכשיו مكهرة فيك بدي أكمل بالعربي.
תודה רבה לך. תודה.
אני משלים, אתה משפט אחרון, אני משלים בערבית.
בבקשה, משפט אחרון. אתה לא רוצה שנבזה אותך ונראה אותך. בבקשה, משפט אחרון, בבקשה.
מה, לא, בשביל מה תוריד אותי? בגלל שדיברתי בערבית?
הסתיים הזמן, זהו.
לא, אבל הפסקתם אותי ואתה הפרעת לי ואמרת לי שאני צריך לדבר בעברית.
לסיים את המשפטים האחרונים, בבקשה. אתה לא תמשיכו לבזות את הכנסת, תודה.
شكرا. اللغة العربية هي لغة رسمية، هي لغة الضاد. أنا فخور بها بالرغم منك ومن أمثالك، وسأستمر بأن أقول كلامي في اللغة العربية وأعود على الجملة التي أغضبت أمثالك وأمثال روتم. أنا لا أترك هذا الوطن بسبب ملكي لأبكي. عجبك ولا ما عجبك؟ الله لا يجعله يعجبه.
So what is TB doing by speaking in this way? Why is he using several languages and several registers of Arabic? He is having an argument, of course, about the admissibility of using Arabic in the Knesset, and perhaps in a more hidden way he is also delivering humor. I'll just pull out the parts of the interaction that seem relevant here, and I'll read the English translation. As throughout this presentation, Hebrew borrowings or Hebrew sections are in italics and Arabic is in regular font. I mean, we in Hebrew, we in Arabic, we shall not leave the homeland. Interrupted by Knesset chair, you are meant to speak in Hebrew. TB objects to this interruption and to this argument and switches back to Arabic in a more determined way, finally delivering the sentence, "We shall not leave the homeland because of Milki, because the land is my property." After that, turning to Shatbon with, "Did you like that or not?" in colloquial Palestinian Arabic, to which Nissim Zev responds from the plenum, "Ajabo, ajabo." He liked it, he liked it. Ahmad TB is proud of his linguistic skills and of his wit, of his oratory, and he wants to deliver this pun, but to deliver it he has to do it in Arabic because of the pair milki, mulki, which only works in Arabic. He comes up against objections to his using Arabic in the Knesset, to which he objects, and he insists all the more. He delivers finally his pun and then turns to the chair, Shatbon, who represents the Jewish Home Party, and cheekily says, "Did you like that or not?" in Palestinian colloquial, which also serves to bond with an Arabic-speaking audience. Nissim Zev of the Shas Party, from an Arabic-speaking background, includes himself in this Arabic-speaking audience, answering, "Ajabo, ajabo." Yeah, he did like it. But he wants to hurry TB off the stage to take the floor himself. Here I'd like to reference The Politics of Palestinian Multilingualism, Speaking for Citizenship, of 2019. In so doing, I would like to thank my mentor and my editor, Professors Deborah Cameron and Alexandre Duchesne. Next, I'd like to take you to Wad Fokken, which is southwest of Jerusalem, right on the border of the West Bank, on what is known as the Green Line. It is hemmed in on both sides by Israeli construction. Wad Fokken is a small Palestinian agricultural village. You can see the agricultural lands in the valley and in the foreground in this photo. In the background, you can see Bet El Elit, an Israeli settlement which is illegal under international law because it is in the occupied Palestinian territories. 3 votes from Bet El Elit went to the joint list on the 2nd of March 2020. Of course, the residents of Wad Fokken did not vote in those Israeli elections because they aren't citizens. They are residents of the occupied territories. On the 9th of March 2020, 7 days after the elections, officers of the Israeli border police came to Wad Fokken to uproot olive trees planted by one of the villagers, Abu Mustafa, and by volunteers on his family's land in Wad Fokken. Abu Mustafa recorded the interaction between himself and the officers, and he streamed 11 minutes of it live on Facebook with his nephew's technical help. You can see the saplings' white plastic sleeves lying on the ground after the trees were removed. I transcribed the interaction at about minute 7 of the video recording between one of the border police soldiers and Abu Mustafa. In the video, you can see officers in the background removing Abu Mustafa's trees, and in total there are about 400 of them. The soldier speaks in Hebrew, and Abu Mustafa responds in his own Hebrew as well. Beautiful view, isn't it? For its sake I'll die here, says Abu Mustafa, for this view. The soldier. Soothing, so why are you still shouting? Abu Mustafa. I am talking with you 10 times that you came to rob me, and you tell me, what are you getting angry for? You are the state. I don't know your name. The soldier. Here, it's written. He points to his name tag. I'm called Itai, and the rest is inaudible. Abu Mustafa says, the problem is, I can't read Hebrew. I interviewed Abu Mustafa 4 days after these events, and I recorded also part of that telephone call, which you will hear in the next slide, together with a transcription and the translation into English.
انا ما سرقتك بقول انت جناب انت سراق انتوا سرقتوا ارضي وسرقت قال انا مش سراق قلت له انت سراق جاي تسرق ارضي انا ما سرقتك بقول انت جناب انت سراق انتوا سرقتوا ارضي وسرقت قال انا مش سراق قلت له انت سراق جاي تسرق ارضي
So how would the language scientists go about analyzing Ahmad Tibi's and Abu Mustafa's speeches? First, the dialectologists would immediately pick up that one is Madani, urban, and the other Fallahi, rural. In this table, I am accumulating layers of analysis with Ahmad Tibi on the left and Abu Mustafa on the right. When the applied linguists come in, they would give their verdicts on language proficiency of the two speakers. Ahmad Tibi acquired Hebrew through formal education, and he commands high registers of both Arabic and Hebrew. He could be said to be a double monolingual. Abu Mustafa, on the other hand, acquired Hebrew informally, and though he is bilingual, he does admit himself that he cannot read Hebrew. Then comes the language contact sociolinguist and the political discourse analyst. That would be me, to point out that there is maybe one Hebrew borrowing in the speaker's Arabic, Milky, the dessert brand name for Ahmad Tibi, and Ganav, from the Hebrew Ganav, meaning thief, in Abu Mustafa's interview with me. Both speakers are bilingual enough to code switch, and they alternate between different codes. Ahmad Tibi uses Hebrew, Modern Standard Arabic, and Palestinian colloquial for their different pragmatic functions in order to convey humor and political statements, while Abu Mustafa uses a addressee-constrained code switch between Hebrew for the officers and Palestinian colloquial for me, for my comprehension. Representatives of the authority only know Hebrew in both cases. the official monolingualism is contested by Ahmad Tibi, whilst on Abu Mustafa's side the onus is on him to demonstrate enough Hebrew knowledge in order to understand and engage with what is happening to him. Both of them are conveying political ideas of belonging based on the idea of the land and ownership of the land, and both of them use pathos. And the conversation analysts. They would talk of strategies for maintaining the floor, maintaining the ability to speak. The floor is an area of contestation, but also an area of creativity, in which both speakers use all the opportunities that are available. Ahmad Tibi appeals to official rules, such as the then official status of Arabic in the Knesset and in Israel. Both of them engage their immediate interlocutors. Whatever the interlocutors raise as topics, the speakers engage with. But they are also speaking to an audience beyond the immediate situation. Ahmad Tibi is aware of the TV cameras that are shining on him, and also beyond the TV, YouTube, whilst Abu Mustafa is holding his phone in his hand with the Facebook streaming. And now both of them, of course, have reached another floor, which is this lecture. So what can a class analysis add to all these layers? What will the political analyst bring? On the surface of things, it looks like a no-brainer. If we take class to mean status, then Ahmad Tibi clearly has had many years of formal education, while Abu Mustafa has had few years of formal education. Ahmad Tibi is engaged in high-status occupations, Abu Mustafa in low-status occupations. Ahmad Tibi comes from a family of townspeople, Abu Mustafa from a family of villagers and refugees. But let's see if we can be a little bit more sophisticated about the analysis. Starting with number 1, the first way that class is useful, locating language use in its political context, which includes the economy. Analyzing the economic context of language leads to questions such as, how do people make a living? Does their socioeconomic position or their means of a livelihood, among other factors, affect how they speak? These are context or reality-oriented questions, sometimes leading to positivist answers. They have been dealt with extensively in variationist studies and, of course, in dialectology, such as the titles I list here. I already mentioned that Abu Mustafa is a manual laborer, but what I didn't say is that he works in Israel. That's how he learned Hebrew, informally. So let's look at some economic hard data, as Jonathan Owens called it. In this table, from the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics, we see the percentages of employment in Israel and the Israeli settlements. For those who are in the workforce, 21% of men in the West Bank work in Israel and the settlements as of 2019. For women, it is 0.8%. I'm interested in these proportions because it sets the conditions for increased exposure to Hebrew in Israel and the settlements. And what kind of jobs do these workers take up in Israel and the Israeli settlements? So for men, it is mainly in construction work. 64% of men who work in settlements or in Israel work in construction. For women, it is not so clear-cut, but possibly some 45% work in services and 31% in manufacturing. That's factories. I'm interested in the types of jobs because the nature of the job might require more or less communication in Hebrew, which would be the language of the employers. These are elements of the speaker's social networks. This type of contact through this type of network would not occur if these Palestinians were not selling their labor to Israelis. This, for me, is what class adds to the analysis. Let me take you to the next stop in our tour. This is Dheisheh refugee camp, founded in 1949. Abu Mustafa, who is 43 years old, was born in Dheisheh after the Israeli army demolished Abu ad-Fukin in 1967. You can see on this map that Dheisheh refugee camp is just to the south of Bethlehem. Here's an excerpt from an interview with a typical young man, migrant worker, Halim, in Dheisheh refugee camp, interviewed in January 2008. I will read the English translation of the transcript, and again, as with all the transcripts in this lecture, the Hebrew borrowings or code switches are in italics. I found work in Abu Ghnaim again, Har Homa settlement, but further away, and the border police was there patrolling all the time along that road, making it hard for me to work. So I used to hide as soon as I saw them, but once they caught us at work, found us and took us from the rooms where we were hiding and took us to the checkpoint. I couldn't go through this lecture without presenting to you the most commonplace Hebrew borrowing in Palestinian Arabic in the West Bank, which is the word for checkpoint, mahsoum. In Arabic it has acquired a broken plural, mahasim, where in Hebrew, mahsum takes the plural, mahsumim. Here we can see in this image how securitization of these barriers has increased over the years, during which I have been doing this research. So mahsum might look, as it did in 2005 in Bethlehem, as a slightly makeshift obstacle. By 2015 there is this highly technological crossing called in Arabic ma'abar. Also in Dheisheh, I interviewed a 44-year-old woman, Ahmed, who worked as a cleaner for Israeli customers. I asked her in Arabic, "And what's your job?" Ahmed answered with a Hebrew borrowing, nikayon, then translating it for me into Arabic, bin nadafe, cleaning. Cleaning, I mean. Let's look at two more tables from the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics. Hard data. The two columns that I've highlighted are the columns that show how many people are working or seeking employment. And for the men between the ages of 25 and 54, it is somewhere between 80 and 90% of men who are inside the workforce. That means they are either employed or looking for work. For women, the equivalent figures are between 18 and 30%. Much fewer women are looking for work or in employment. And then when you look at the unemployment rates, for men in the same age range, the unemployment is somewhere between 12 and 23%. For women, the equivalent figures are between 7 and 53%. So women are, first of all, much less likely to be in the workforce, and when they are much more likely to be unemployed than men. Here's another interesting figure. For those Palestinians who are outside the workforce, that means they are not employed and they are not seeking employment, there are different reasons given for why they are not working. For women, the most common reason is housekeeping, for all age groups and all education. 0% of men list housekeeping as the reason for not working. Let's sum it up a little bit then. In Palestine, the population is 5 million people. At most, 30.1% of women aged 25 to 54 are either in paid work or looking for work, as opposed to at least 81.8% of men. 53.8% of women are unemployed and looking for paid work, as opposed to 23.4% of men. And of those women who are employed in the occupied West Bank, 0.8% work in Israel or in Israeli settlements, as opposed to 21% of men. Of those women who work in Israel or the settlements, 45.7%, possibly, work in services, as opposed to 4.4% of men. Of those women who are not looking for employment, 62.1% give their reason as housekeeping, including 52.2% of women with tertiary education. 0% of men do housekeeping. This bundle of constraints is called the sexual contract. Class is therefore not a measure of wealth, prestige, or lifestyle. It is, for me, in this analysis, the ability to make a living by selling one's labor. This agency intersects with gender and age and other factors to shape and constrain the specific relationships in which class can take form. And class is formative of social networks, which is formative of language use. Ahmed explains what it means to work in services. Nancy asks, are they respectful of you? Ahmed, not one of them says, do this, do that. They don't speak like that. Nancy, how do they speak with you? Excuse me, please, like? Ahmed, with Hebrew reported speech. Yes, excuse me, Ahmed, excuse me. For instance, on the phone or something. For instance, she rings up. Hello, Ahmed. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Really, really, the house is clean, clean. Thank you very much. For instance, when she comes home from her job and finds her house and says, sparkling, sparkling, Ahmed, really. Ahmed has 6 customers in different towns in central Israel. However, these polite customers have not arranged for an access permit to Israel for her. She enters Israel through irregular routes before dawn to reach her workplaces. Ahmed explains class. Nancy, what do you spend most money on? Of course, the schools. Really, every day. This one sometimes has to take special classes. Why? Hugging a child. Because she isn't clever. I have to take care of her. The schools, I say, that's the most important. It's key. My mother taught me, may she rest in peace, I mean. We got used to a certain standard, but this is it. Ahmed sells her labor because she has aspirations to a certain standard of living inherited from her own mother. Her children could become a different class, though possibly under the circumstances not the boys who are more likely to end up working in Israel and the settlements. Ahmed explains the sexual contract, in case I rushed over it a bit too fast. She knows that her being a worker, while her husband is too ill to work, has broken the sexual contract. And so she says to me, find him a bride, motioning dismissively at her husband. Nancy says, what, aren't you the bride? Everyone laughs. Ahmed says, that was a long time ago, yes. Enough of that. I analyzed Ahmed's speech in Palestinian-Israeli Contact and Linguistic Practices in 2013, and here I would like to thank my supervisor, Professor Clive Halls. Let's sum it up again. If you are a Palestinian woman, you are not likely to be in waged employment. You are even less likely to be working for Hebrew speakers. Yet if you do work in Israel or the Israeli settlements, you are likely to be working in an employment that requires more varied Hebrew comprehension and use than men who work in construction. And therein lies a puzzle for the idea that when change happens to language, women lead the change. Ahmed performed in this interview more everyday use of Hebrew than did the men workers, and she linked that use to her service sector job. But the service sector is growing in the conditions of late capitalism, in conditions of high unemployment, in the constrained economy of Palestine. The services sector, together with the information and knowledge sectors, have grown exponentially in consumerist late capitalism. Some of these new jobs are in shopping centers, where young Palestinian men and women work as cashiers, stackers, and cleaners. I interviewed some of them in the refugee camps and also in the shopping centers. You can see Malhamor and Somet Hagush on this map. Yes, class is a useful concept for analyzing Arabic. If it involves a specific analysis of a specific relationship in a specific type of economic system, then this is important contextual information for situating language use. Class is dynamic, not rigid, and it relies on participants' economic self-description rather than status definition. Let's go to the second way in which class is useful: accounting for power dynamics in establishing hierarchies of speakers. Socioeconomic class is part of the reason of why there are hierarchies of speakers. And, of course, in Arabic sociolinguistics, this has been a perennial question. Which varieties have prestige? What is the role of modern Standard Arabic versus urban dialects? What socioeconomic groups are gatekeepers of the prestigious language? And for this analysis, I propose that Pierre Bourdieu's work on linguistic market is useful, and this has been picked up, of course, by several scholars of Arabic. Mixing Hebrew in Arabic is generally viewed negatively, unless it's done by Ahmed Dibi. Let me quote Monica Heller and Bonnie McElhinney, 2017. It is not enough to speak the legitimate language, you must also be a legitimate speaker. So language ideologies not only rank speaking subjects as racialized, gendered, and classed, they also produce those subjects as racialized, gendered, and classed, and locate authenticity of different values and kinds among them. Here's an exchange between Ahmed and her husband, Abu Ahmed. She is saying, I always want to speak in Hebrew. Why? Every day I speak Hebrew. Abu Ahmed. Listen, Nancy, she doesn't speak Arabic, English, or Hebrew. This is a photo of Tzomet Hagush shopping center, which is located amongst Israeli settlements in the West Bank. It is also located near big Palestinian towns, Bethlehem and Hebron. In the shopping centers, when I did a survey in 2016, Arabic was not suppressed, but it was depreciated. Those Jewish Israelis in the shopping centers who could speak Arabic preferred not to, and those Arabs who were there reserved Arabic for Palestinian-only interactions. Yes, class is useful, following Bourdieu's concept of the linguistic marketplace, in which different usages of languages are valued differently, depending on speakers' social standing, among other factors. Some usages are so undervalued that containment becomes the norm. Let's move on to the third way for class to be useful, in reflecting on transformations effected by language workers, such as linguistics scholars, you and me. In point 3, I am interested in workers who specifically sell language products and services and therefore repackage their own language knowledge as marketable skills. Typical examples are translators, call center operators, language teachers, etc. All of us in this conference are definitely in that category. The idea of language workers was first proposed in 1956 by Marcel Cohen. I also like these other articles suggested here, where you see that how one speaks and how one analyzes speech can be a way of making a living. I could have told you a lot more about this area of the world that I've been visiting and studying for so many years. Pausing at this map for a minute before ending the tour, I would like to note that the area west of Bethlehem is earmarked for annexation to Israel if the Trump deal of the century goes ahead. This would constitute a human rights emergency. In line with the argument of this lecture, I would not expect this political move to have a sociolinguistic impact, except if the economy were reconfigured in the region. It would, of course, provide too many opportunities for Abu Mustafa and villagers like him to argue with soldiers in Hebrew about land expropriation. Out of the speakers whom I introduced to you in this lecture, who is a language worker? Only Ahmed Tibi. Abu Mustafa in Wad Fokken and Halim and Ahmed in Dheisha sold their manual labor, though knowing Hebrew, of course, could be crucial for their reaching their workplace through securitized space and for doing their job. Ahmed Tibi's career, on the other hand, entirely depends on the successful performance of his multilingualism. He sells his discursive products as one would a marketable resource. So, did you pass the language test? This poster is in Yiddish. Why did the Arab parties design a poster in Yiddish? No, I don't think they expected to gain any votes in Beit Shemesh. Only 20 votes on the 2nd of March 2020 went to the joint list, out of 43,000 voters in Beit Shemesh. The poster conveys a message in its form as well as in its content. The message, I'd argue, is: we, the Arabic speakers, own the means to produce discourse multilingually. We are the multilingual language workers on the political scene, while the state works monolingually. This is what both Ahmed Tibi's performance and the poster is demonstrating. Of course, another language worker in this lecture is me. And what is the message in the forms of discourse used by us, participants in the Arabic Language Forum? Do we own multilingual modes of production, or do we produce only in English? We extract discursive resources from the world that we study, and who profits from selling our language products and services? Will online dissemination reduce barriers where visas and travel were prohibitive to participation? These questions might be crucial going forward. So I hope I have convinced you of my argument that class is a useful concept for analyzing Arabic. Identifying ownership of the means of language work production explains multilingual forms of discourse by speakers in the service, information and knowledge sectors, which are emblematic of late capitalism. Thank you for watching and listening to this presentation, and my special thanks also go to Dr. Roberta Morano and Professor Janet Watson for organizing my participation in the conference. Here's my contact email. Thank you.